Hello, everybody, and welcome to a video on SoFi, where I would like to discuss the issue of the student loan forgiveness and the moratorium and the lawsuit, the legal challenge that is actually going on against the forgiveness. And the forgiveness is obviously linked to the moratorium. If student loan forgiveness does not go through, the moratorium will likely be extended. And this has been a problem for SoFi. This has been a problem for the stock because the market still associates SoFi as a student loan refinancing company. And so, if the legal challenge works and student loan forgiveness is cancelled, there will be a moratorium extension and the stock may crash. And I'm actually very indifferent to whether the student loan forgiveness goes through or not, as far as SoFi is concerned, because I just don't think it has that much of an impact on SoFi anymore. SoFi pivoted, right? They haven't had student loans for almost 2 years and a half. So they're not that company that was known for flooding mailboxes with refinancing options. They're not that company anymore. They've pivoted. Their revenue is still 50% up year over year without the federal loan refinancing. But Wall Street still associates with this business with student loans. And so that has been an overhang on the stock. It's been a big overhang. And this is a problem because the market is a voting machine right now. And it's voting against SoFi essentially as long as there is no end to the moratorium. And the end of the moratorium has been set to be on January 31st, 2023. So that would be a great short-term catalyst. But, and this is actually not very visible in the news, you kind of had to dig for this, but yeah, it's paused right now. It's paused right now because there's a fairly strong legal challenge and very strong possibility that it could be illegal. This forgiveness could be illegal. And if forgiveness was canceled by a judge, the judge canceled that, the moratorium would be extended, and that would likely hurt SoFi in the short term because the market is a voting machine right now and they are worried. So I just wanted to talk about why I think it really doesn't matter for SoFi, and SoFi will be fine either way, by walking us through two scenarios. So the first scenario is that the legal challenge loses. And if the legal challenge loses, forgiveness goes through. What happens if forgiveness goes through? The moratorium ends. SoFi resumes federal loan refinancing. Much likely as a much smaller part of your business now that they're a much bigger company and they've had more than 2 years of 50% sequential growth. So it's going to be a very small part of your business now, but the market is still going to bid this up and be like, oh, this is wonderful for SoFi. And so short term, I think it could potentially give a bounce to the stock. Although, if you remember, if you've been following SoFi for a while, you remember the bank charter that SoFi got in early 2022 was supposed to give a huge, boost to the stock price, and it didn't. It didn't do any such thing. So we're not even sure this will be a short-term catalyst. But one thing that we know for sure is that refinancing of federal student loans would resume, but it would resume on a smaller market because they are canceling multiple hundreds of billions of dollars of loans. So that would be a smaller market. And this is another issue if a presidential declaration can be sufficient, edict can be sufficient to cancel student debt. This is another issue is there may be more forgiveness. And so that business may become even smaller. And the refinancing market may become even smaller in the very long term because we're not guaranteed that it will only be $10,000. You could have another 10,000 2 years from now, another 10,000 2 years from now, and maybe $10,000 forgiven every 2 years. And then for SoFi, over the long term, I believe this would actually reduce the market. And this is something actually that was pointed out in the legal challenge, that banks would be negatively impacted by forgiveness. So short term, we really need it because the stock is down short term. But if you care much more about the long term, I would challenge the idea that this is a good thing long term because we don't know how many waves of forgiveness there's going to be. So that's one point. But that's the best time short term scenario that forgiveness goes through and January 31st, payments resume and SoFi can start back its refinancing business on a smaller volume. Scenario number two is the legal challenge wins. If the legal challenge wins, what's going to happen? Well, it's not like a refinancing is going to begin. If the legal challenge wins, forgiveness forgiveness will be on hold, and so the moratorium will continue. And so the moratorium will continue until either more legal proceedings determine that it can or can't go through, or until the three houses, right, the White House, the Senate, and the House, agree to forgiveness in a formal manner. So if the legal challenge wins, we may have a moratorium go on for a few more years. And so in that case, we have to wait for this short-term catalyst for a long while, and SoFi will be long past its student loans day by then. So if we wait, and after waiting, the decision is still to forgive debt, well, we go back to scenario one. Great short-term catalyst, but smaller volume going forward. However, if no forgiveness is decided and no law is passed, eventually the payments will resume, or at least that is, I guess, that is a big assumption to make. But eventually, I mean, I don't think you can have a pause for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, although maybe. But eventually, that will resume. And so, if no forgiveness is decided and it resumes, it's actually pretty good because you will have over the very long run greater volume, right? Greater refinancing volume, and you don't have that legal door opened, which can allow any sitting president to cancel debt. So arguably, scenario two, a scenario where a very long-term scenario where it would probably take years to develop, but where after years of negotiation, we realize that forgiveness is not possible, and head of the treasury, for example, says, hey, we really need to resume, head of the Department of Education, hey, we really need to resume those payments. In a few years, if that happens, that could actually be a better catalyst long term. The point I'm trying to make is that we have no control over this, and SoFi is past that period. So I can see it coming where if the legal challenge wins, lots of articles are going to be anti-SoFi and against SoFi, even though it would not really matter that much because SoFi has moved on, and B, this legal challenge winning may actually be arguably a better long-term catalyst because once again, if a forgiveness goes through, we have no guarantee. Maybe there will be full cancellation, and when there's full cancellation of federal debt, that business is gone forever. So for SoFi, and even though it's probably very good if you're a student, it's not as good if you're SoFi because that's a part of your business. So this is my take on the moratorium and the student loan forgiveness. And so hopefully you can find this video when the news comes out. I'll try to use some of the good keywords, and I don't think there's any reason to panic. Still very bullish on SoFi. None of this has been investment advice, nor will ever be. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.